Welcome back to another video from my 2024 trip to Japan. I'm nearing the end of my video series. I've made at least one video for each day that I spent in Japan last year. In this video, I am taking a bus into Shibuya. I had a few things on my agenda for that day, and visiting the Tower Records right outside Harajuku was my number one agenda item. When I was in high school in Southern California, Tower Records was a big part of my life. Like, that was the place to go on a Friday night or a Saturday night. You could hang out, you could listen to music at one of their listening stations. There was always great artwork there. Imports, magazines, vinyl, CDs, cassettes, video rental. They had it all. And anytime I would head up to Los Angeles, I would hit the Tower Records on Sunset and the Tower Video across the street. Those were heady days. And so when I learned that there was a Tower Records in Shibuya, and not just a little pop-up store like the one I had found in, was it Sunshine City? No, it was in the mall behind the Unicorn Gundam. That is in a different video. But when I heard there was a full-size Tower Records, which I think is something like 7 stories high, I had to go check it out. For a little context, this was right around the time Tortured Poets Society came out from Taylor Swift, and it was right around the time that Oasis had announced they were going back on tour. They were getting back together for a tour. So there was a lot of buzz happening at the Tower Records in Harajuku. It was a real mainline injection of nostalgia. It even smelled and sounded like the Tower Records I remember. Now, of course, the towers in Southern California, oddly enough, were all single story. Get it? Tower, record, single, okay. But this store was indeed a tower, and each floor was unique. The ones that stuck out to me the most were the ground floor, because it felt like old school Tower Records. The listening stations, the big signage, the loud signage, the row after row of CDs and vinyls. There was an entire floor dedicated to vinyl and retro. I think they even had a section with musical instruments and retro record players, which was really neat. There was a cafe on one floor, which I believe we already saw in this video. And most unusual to my Western eyes was an entire floor, which I believe was dedicated to idol meet and greets. There were kind of big open spaces with the cardboard or acrylic idol stand-ups, places for queuing. I can't say for certain, but it looked to me like it was for idol meetups, which totally jives with what I know of Japanese music culture. And even on my last visit to Tokyo the year prior, I was actually at Shibuya Scramble and went into the music store, which is right above the famous Starbucks, which overlooks the intersection. And there was actually an idol meet and greet happening right then. So sort of having seen one in action before and knowing what they look like, that's kind of what led me to believe that entire floor was dedicated to it. It was really neat. It was a really neat little outing to roam the halls of Tower Records. And it felt sort of like coming home. Like it was such a blast from the past. There's a bunch of Oasis vinyl. The vinyl section was great. I don't collect vinyl. In fact, I don't collect physical media at all anymore. So just being able to sort of, touch and feel and smell and experience all of that sort of media from a long gone part of my life, and remembering all those visits to Tower Records with friends, discovering new music. I think I actually bought my very first 2 CDs ever at a Tower Records. It was The Smiths' The Queen is Dead and Michael Penn's March album. My 2 first ever CDs. And I promptly ran out to my car and put them in my Discman, which I had purchased a couple days prior. If you are in Tokyo, the Shibuya Harajuku area, you should absolutely check out this Tower Records. There's all those record players I was talking about. This whole section had a bunch of really neat machinery for music creation. I want to say there was 7 floors. Yeah, I think right now I'm on the top floor. 7's a lot of floors, and they were big. Usually this James Brown bobblehead is awesome. That might be my thumbnail right there. Usually buildings in Japan are sort of have smaller footprints. So, they've got a bunch of floors, but they're small. These were huge floors, and there was 7 of them. In fact, I think of the Tower Records that I'm familiar with, like the one in Orange County off El Toro and the one off Sunset. Those were the 2 I frequented as a youth. I feel like the square footage was less than this store I just saw the sign that said Shibuya. It's a couple blocks down the street from Harajuku. You get the idea. I feel like this store is it wouldn't surprise me to learn this was the biggest Tower Records in the world. It's just huge. I didn't end up buying anything. I kind of was thinking of picking up a little set of guitar picks or just something that said Tower Records on it. But my plan for my trip to Japan was not to stock up on souvenirs, but instead on memories, videos, and photos. And here we are. That about wraps up this video. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. And as always, we will see you for the next one.